I don't. Stay cool and danger-free with new Head & Shoulders.
Oral-B knows that no matter what kind of teeth you have, they deserve a perfect clean that's also perfectly gentle. Our dentist-inspired round brush head gently adapts to your teeth. It cleans where your manual toothbrush doesn't reach and massages your gums. The pressure sensor ensures you don't apply too much pressure for up to 100% cleaner teeth and proven gum protection. Oral-B, the #1 brand used by dentists worldwide. Your perfect clean starts with Oral-B.
And we now move to leaders' questions. Understanding Order 38, I call on Deputy Mary Lou MacDonald.
Taoiseach, during the 1960s, young boys suffered horrific daily sexual abuse at the hands of former Christian brother Sean Drummond at Cray Lane National School in Limerick. And some of the survivors of that abuse are in the public gallery this afternoon. And I want to welcome David Fair, John Boland, Tom Hogan, Ger Smith, Christopher Rainbow and Thomas Hogan. Fáilte Rove. These men were failed catastrophically as children and treated appallingly as survivors, and for years they had to fight the state for recognition, justice and full compensation. They were locked out of redress for years. Even following the landmark Louise O'Keeffe judgment by the European Court of Human Rights in 2014, they were still prevented from accessing compensation, and this was because they hadn't made a prior complaint of sexual abuse to authorities, even though their abuser was convicted in open court 5 years earlier. They had endured a lengthy Garda investigation which required them to relive the abuse and trauma they had suffered as children, and yet the State Claims Agency and the defendants persisted in challenging the survivors. And the anguish, Taoiseach, for these men didn't end there, because later it emerged that Drummond wrote a confession letter dated as far back as February 1970, in which he admitted abusing pupils in Cray Lane School. Correspondence shows that the Christian Brothers in Dublin and in Rome were fully aware of the abuse committed by Drummond, but the confession letter was concealed. It was never given to the survivors. So the investigation, the criminal case and the survivors' civil cases were conducted without this key piece of evidence. The confession letter itself constituted a prior complaint, and had it been disclosed, the men wouldn't have had to fight until 2021 to access compensation. The concealment of Drummond's confession letter resulted in further pain, trauma and years of unspeakable distress for these survivors. And we shouldn't lose sight, Taoiseach, of what these men went through as children. John Boland spoke of the horrors endured. He said you'd be called to the front of the class for some reason or another. He'd put his cloak around you and start interfering with you. John told of a full school year hoping just to get through the days without being molested. Cray Lane National School should have been a safe place for children, but Sean Drummond turned it into a living nightmare. Tá íospartaí Cray Lane ag trid san ceartas agus cuaitseamh iomlán le blianta fada hep an stáit í a chosint. Tá sé an am faoi dhearg an rud ceart a dhéanamh den na fear seo atá tar éis folangt an irid sin. Taoiseach, in 2018, you described the state's treatment of survivors like those from Cray Lane as extraordinary, cruel and insensitive. Many of the men are now in their 60s. Some have died without seeing full justice, and it's now finally time to do right by them. So they've asked me to put some questions to you. Number one, will you support the establishment of an independent investigation into the concealment of this letter and whether state agencies knew of its existence? Secondly, will you commit to the survivors that they will now finally be paid all of the compensation owed to them? You see, these men have fought for years and they shouldn't have to fight another single day more.
Well, thank you for raising this. And I appreciate that the survivors of the horrific abuse perpetrated by Sean Drummond are in the gallery this evening. I wasn't aware that they would be here today or that the issue would be raised, but notwithstanding that, there is no question that the trauma experienced by them and by others as a result of the heinous acts of this individual, Sean Drummond, and indeed many others in previous years in our schools and across other areas of society has been truly traumatic and has had a life-changing impact on the people abused and on survivors. And there is a shocking history of child sexual abuse in this country, and there has been in many institutions. And as you know, the scoping inquiry into historical sexual abuse in day and boarding schools run by religious orders was published in 2024, and it recognised the significance of the issues for survivors, the issue of redress as well, and their expressed wish that those running those schools, and in this case the Christian Brothers, where child sexual abuse happened, should be held accountable. Not just held accountable in terms of what happened, but held accountable financially. So an interdepartmental group was established on foot of the scoping inquiry report to each recommendation of that report, and the interdepartmental group recognised that there were far-reaching implications. So there's a lot of detailed work underway now, as you know, and it is examining mechanisms that may be brought to bear to ensure that those responsible for the schools where sexual abuse took place meet their obligations to survivors. It aims to complete its work by May of 2027 and will make a report to the Minister based on which government then will give consideration to that. And so the issue is, and I appreciate particularly the specifics to this case, but there could be many more involved, and the issue for government more generally is to try and look at this comprehensively in terms of all issues that may arise in the context of the work of that interdepartmental group. That said, I will examine. I wasn't aware of the letter, the confession letter of Sean Drummond, as you've outlined there, and I'd like to get more background on that and to see what's the best way to take it from here in respect of that particular specific issue in terms of an independent investigation into why that letter did not appear before now. So that's where we are right now in relation to it.
Thank you. Deputy, please.
So Sean Drummond received a sentence of 2 years and he served 5 months. These men, and not just them, their families, their entire families, serve a life sentence on account of this abuse. And the worst thing of it, of course, is that they were faced down so viciously by the state. Even when Louise O'Keefe won, they still faced them down. And the information then that subsequently emerged that a letter of confession was written in February 1970. This demon had conceded and had confessed to the abuse that he had carried out on these innocent children. That letter was concealed from the survivors, and they want to know, Taoiseach, who knew about this letter. And I think this is a matter of the utmost seriousness. There has to be a comprehensive investigation of this matter. And furthermore, the full compensation due to these men, due to them, as is their right. Nothing takes away the pain, nor ever will, but they have to be fully compensated. Will you agree to both of those? Because that's why they're here with us in the Dáil today.
In respect, I mean, this is, as far as I can see, new information in respect of this letter. Was this a confession letter written to the Gardaí at the time, or to who? I'm not sure as to who, but we can discuss that. We can take. I will take this further, and I will examine this, because, to be fair, didn't anticipate, obviously, because that this would be raised here this morning, but I certainly will take the issue that you've raised in respect of this letter that was written by him in the 1970s forward and see how best to examine that and deal with that. As I said, there is an interdepartmental group, but I will reflect on this now, discuss it with the Minister for Education and others in respect of this specific case.
Particular, the victims, you're most welcome. Now, Deputy Holly Cairns, please.
Margaret, Ciaran Corla. Taoiseach, schools are closed, teachers are on leave, families are on holidays. And incredibly, I have to ask you, does the Department of Education know that? Because if they do, why did they choose this week to announce a whole new application process for special class and special school places for 2027-28 school year? Parents and schools only found out yesterday, and to add insult to injury, the portal closes on the 1st of September. We all know that so many parents rely on teachers to help them with these hugely complicated applications, and you somehow expect them to do that by the first week back to school. The circular says the department will have a targeted communication strategy to reach out to parents over the summer, and that it wants schools to, quote, assist them in doing so. Even though, to repeat, schools are closed. Ciaran Corla, we also learned yesterday that for the first time, children's student support plans will be used to help determine eligibility for a place in a special class. Currently, these plans are created by teachers to support children in their existing classes. They are not supposed to be the determining factor in whether a child can access a special class or not. The fear now is the government is changing the eligibility requirements for special classes by stealth. Last December, Minister Foley announced that assessments of need would no longer be required to access special classes or special schools. Now we have a hint of what may be coming down the line. Reports created by teachers as learning and support aids for children, replacing psychological reports, placing huge pressure on teachers who, instead of writing a report on how best to support a child in their own classroom, will know that what they write could be the difference between that child getting a special class or not. This massive change in policy is being slipped through quietly in a circular during the summer break. Taoiseach, in all fairness, I have to ask about the carelessness in the way in which this government consistently treats special education and the level of disrespect being shown to families and school communities. Taoiseach, my questions are, can you explain why this announcement was made when schools are closed? And will you do now what will inevitably be done later and postpone the closure of the portal until at least October? And can you confirm that this government is changing the eligibility criteria for special classes and schools?
Thank you, Deputy Taoiseach.
First of all, say that the portrayal of the government's position on special education is wrong and does not accord with the facts. We have expanded provision for special education year after year, and we continue to do so, with thousands of more places, hundreds of extra special classes, new special schools, thousands of additional special needs assistants, and additional special education teachers. The numbers speak for themselves. It's not credible for you either, notwithstanding the trauma and pressure that parents are under, to sort of portray a picture of a government that's not engaging with special ed, because we are. The figures speak for themselves, the number of extra teachers, SNAs, all speak for themselves. Now, last year we brought it forward to the 1st of October, correctly, because it was too late in previous years. And the result was a dramatic increase in the numbers applying. So applications from about 7,860 children for a special placement for September 26. And that's more than twice the number who did so ahead of the 2025 school year. So bringing the date forward was effective and was impactful. And resulting in a substantial increased allocation to education to cater for the additional needs in terms of special classes, and about 580 new special classes have opened as a result of that initiative last year, and 60 new inclusive special classes and so forth. Now, there has already, since in relation to the 1st of September, been huge engagement from parents, and parents are engaging with the portal. And again, that will facilitate earlier planning, earlier provision, and to make sure that we can get as much as we possibly can get done before the school year. And there hasn't been a change of policy in respect of the circular that issued. I think the department are seeking information, which is in my view, is something that should always be done. So, like, you're now saying put it back. The previous year, it was in many respects, the information was coming in too late to organise the new special classes and provision. The bringing it forward has enabled us to do an awful lot more this year for the current school year than we would have been able to do in previous years, and has allowed for, as you know, a very significant additional 646 million on top of the allocated estimate to education was given by the government in response to the increased demand. So in total now there'll be about 4,200 special classes operating in mainstream schools next year. That's about 130% increase since 2020. And our objective is that every child will receive a special school
Deputy
placement
Kearns to respond.
by September.
Deputy Kearns.
I don't know how you can stand up in here and say that there isn't a change when this is very clearly a huge change for schools, for teachers, for students, without engagement with them, without understanding of the impact, and seemingly without even understanding the school calendar. If it weren't so serious, it would actually be comical. The government has failed to provide school places for hundreds of children, attempted to slash the number of SNAs in schools, botched the rollout of the summer provision, and you stand up here and tell everybody that things are going great. Given that schools are closed now, people thought they might get a break from this kind of a mess. But no, here we are again. I'll ask the other two questions that you didn't answer again. Why was this announced when the schools are closed? And will you postpone the closure of the portal until at least the first week in October?
Taoiseach, please.
Deputy, they're not, I mean, there are thousands of additional places were secured last year. I mean, where...
You answer.
Sorry, Seb, I am answering a question, but you're making false assertions. You are. Yes, you are, and you keep sort of with your feigned horror and all the rest of it. And it is a feigned kind of presentation.
Please allow the answer without interruption.
We're all involved with parents.
Deputies, you weren't interrupted.
In special education. We know about it. Okay? You're not the only person that knows about special education, Deputy. We all know about it. Because we all go about our work, and I know about it. I've known it for a long time.
We'll have one voice, Deputy, and you've had yours.
You made it about us. You made the remarks that it is a serious issue, which is you started throwing, again, not concentrating and focusing on the actual key point. There's ongoing engagement. There is ongoing engagement between the SCE, between the department, with schools, with parents, and there has been. And there was a dramatic last year alone, there was 2,000 additional special classes in the last 2 years alone. I mean, come on, acknowledge the expansion that has occurred. You're incapable of acknowledging it.
Margaret Cancorla. Taoiseach, my deepest sympathies are with the family of Jamie Carney, the Killarney-based woman into whose death local Gardaí are preparing to open a murder investigation. And we note that a man has been charged with the murder of Adina Raluca Constantine, who died after an assault in Laois on Saturday. Our thoughts are with their families, friends and communities as they reel from that brutal and tragic news. Taoiseach, as of yesterday, the number of women killed violently in Ireland this year has overtaken the figure for the whole of 2025 in just 7 months. Rich, full lives extinguished, families deprived of mothers, sisters and daughters, communities deprived of family, of friends, of colleagues, of neighbours. It's become a cliché to describe violence against women as an epidemic, and fatal violence against women as femicide. But that's the reality, Taoiseach. Women's Aid tells us that 1 in 3 women has experienced domestic violence in some form. Domestic violence is lived, endured and survived by women every day. But tragically, as we see, sometimes women do not survive. Almost 90% of women murdered in Ireland over recent decades were killed by a man who was known to them. Domestic violence kills, and study after study shows that behaviour of coercive control increases the risk of fatal violence. We know the patterns that exist, so our national response has to become something more than ritualised shock after the fact. We must have a concerted strategy to stop perpetrators of this horrific violence and close the policy gaps into which victims are falling. We cannot continue to tolerate the intolerable. There's much we can do, Taoiseach, but I want to ask about one policy in particular. Frontline organisations like Women's Aid tell us that financial insecurity and the housing crisis are trapping women and children in violent homes. They simply cannot afford to leave and they have nowhere to go. Their abusers know this. So Labour has proposed a €3 million safe fund to provide fast financial support for those who need an escape route. Administered by Women's Aid, it would not be means tested. Taoiseach, just weeks ago I raised the epidemic of violence against women and girls with you. And I did so in the context of a number of policy calls, including the establishment of this safe fund. And you gave me a welcome reply, saying you would ask the line ministers to engage with us to explore how to ring-fence funds for this proposal. You said you were open to constructive engagement. But Taoiseach, we've heard nothing since then, and we know budget negotiations are already underway. A safe fund cannot resolve the deeply embedded misogyny that exists in Irish society, but if it can save a life or protect one woman or one child from the torment of domestic violence, it's worth doing. So, Taoiseach, can you confirm if you plan to bring our proposal to Cabinet? Will we see a safe fund for women in this year's budget? And if not, could we have a timeline for this change, this necessary change? It's not hugely costly, Taoiseach, but it is something that could have a huge impact on the lives of vulnerable women and children.
I want to thank you, Deputy, for raising this issue. It is shocking, the loss of life, the murder and killing of women, and as you say, a large percentage are killed by people known to them, and the horrific killing of Jamie Carney and Adina in Portlaoise is quite shocking, but the numbers are not going in the right direction in terms of the continued violence and extreme violence that's occurring. So there's a societal response required. More generally, it needs to be, obviously there will be investigations in respect of the most recent killings, but that's in some respect, and those who committed these crimes need to be brought to justice. But more broadly speaking, we are supportive of any measure that will help women who are victims of continuing domestic violence. And that does mean far greater degree of flexibility in housing policy, for example, which the Minister for Housing has, since I think you last raised this, has actually updated Cabinet in respect of measures to transfer time on social housing between local authorities to facilitate women to leave where they are to another, but also to develop protocols with local authorities in respect of how women in circumstances of domestic violence can avail of housing and the provision of safe houses, as well as, of course, additional refuge spaces. And Coon is the new agency that the government established for domestic violence is leading that. I will speak to the ministers concerned in terms of your proposal around the Safe Fund, and it's not huge money. But again, one would have to engage with the organisation in terms of the specifics of that. We don't want that. We want to make sure that the programme of additional refuge places and additional safe houses, and also that in every local authority allocation, there should be, in my view, a reserve held to facilitate women fleeing domestic violence. So I'll ask the Minister for Housing and the Minister for Justice to talk to again in respect of specifics of what you've put forward. I favour as broad a degree of flexibility as possible to facilitate women who are under the constant threat of either coercive control or violence or in any shape or form that might take. And we have to provide opportunities for people to flee that violence and to leave that violence behind them, to take that decisive step. And that's, so I leave it at that for the time and come back.
Thank you for that substantive and positive response. Excuse me, I do appreciate that, and I appreciate your indication that you will engage seriously on this issue. And clearly there is more to be done also on provision of refuge spaces, on local authority allocation rules. I do think it's regrettable that in yesterday's debate on the Istanbul Convention we saw an insufficient number of TDs scheduled to speak showing up for the debate. The debate collapsed. And that, I think, is unfortunate in a national emergency, and an emergency not just in this jurisdiction but across this island. And we've seen some shocking figures also in the north. So public representatives need to treat it seriously. And again, I thank you for the engagement. And I should say, of course we all know, women and children should not be forced to flee from their homes. We do need to develop a means of ensuring that it's perpetrators who are removed from their homes and speedily done so. But we do also appreciate that in an emergency, victims need support in fleeing, in escaping violence. And freedom from violence should not be a luxury. So I thank you for your commitment in principle to a fund of this nature, a safe fund of this nature. The details can certainly be discussed and clarified, but the support of government in principle is vital. And could I ask that we might see funds allocated in this year's budget?
Taoiseach, please.
Again, thank you for raising this. I should have referenced that the Minister for Social Protection, Darragh O'Leary, has announced the introduction of a domestic violence travel supplement. You're probably aware of that since, I think, again, the last time we raised that. I think that is important, additional measure. But broadly speaking, we have a significant issue, I think, more generally, in terms of the level and scale of violence and attitudes, and particularly this is separate from the murders that occurred, but access to violent pornography, for example, by young males is an issue as well, which could be creating a sort of an environment which is leading to the kind of shocking levels of violence perpetrated against women. And we do need to look at this more broadly, which we are, but I think we have to continue to look at what's the most effective way to change what the societal
time is up.
Context
Thank you,
for all this.
Deputy Paul Murphy.
Thanks, Corla. I want to start by paying tribute to the Cray Lane abuse survivors who have had to, and they shouldn't have had to, but have had to fight tirelessly for justice in the face of a conspiracy by the church and a cover-up and absolute obstruction by the state. Taoiseach, tonight TDs have an opportunity to ban the barbaric practice of hair coursing, to join the North and the rest of Europe in saying that terrorising animals is not entertainment or sport, to stop thousands of Irish hares being captured from the wild every year, being crammed into crates, then into enclosures with other hares despite them being solitary animals, and then to make them run for their lives from dogs that are 10 times their size, with hares being pinned to the ground, thrown into the air and killed every single year. We know that many Fianna Fáil TDs have told constituents that they're opposed to hair coursing and they want to vote against it. What's your position, Taoiseach? Are you personally in favour of hair coursing? Do you think it's okay to torture wild animals for fun or for gambling? Are you going to let your TDs vote with their conscience? Or is this a case of Fianna Fáil running with the hares and hunting with the hounds, saying one thing to one audience and then doing another? There's a new poll published this morning which confirms that the vast majority of people right across this country are opposed to hair coursing. We know there's no urban-rural divide on this issue, despite what the tiny minority of people who enjoy torturing animals try to make out. But there is a troubling part of the debate on this issue so far, which needs to be cleared up before TDs vote tonight. In the debate on Thursday, Minister Niall Collins said, quote, "In 2022, an independent economic analysis estimated that coursing contributed approximately 70.7 million annually to the Irish economy." The same figure was repeated on the airwaves by other Fianna Fáil TDs and by the Irish Coursing Club. But this is a very elusive report, Taoiseach, shyer than the hair itself. It was supposedly done in 2022, but literally was not mentioned anywhere until last week. There were parliamentary questions asked in 2025, and this report was never mentioned. When asked by the Journal, the Irish Coursing Club refused to provide this report, supposedly because it has to be presented to their members first, 4 years after it was written. So we have a report, apparently produced in 2022, with an unbelievable finding of a value of over €70 million of hair coursing, but which conveniently, in 4 years, hasn't been published, so nobody can actually scrutinise it. It's all a bit mysterious, Taoiseach, wouldn't you agree? Have you seen this report? And do you agree that this report, if it exists at all, needs to be published before the vote so that TDs can assess for themselves what the supposed economic benefit of continued cruelty and barbarism towards Irish hairs is?
Taoiseach, please.
First of all, thank the Deputy for raising the issue. And in the first instance, each political party has its own rules in respect of a vote of conscience, and in the government party's situation, it's in respect of human life issues, and in terms of, and that's well known and across the political system. And then parties vote in accordance with internal debates and under the whip system, and that is the position. And coursing is is regulated more tightly here, and significantly tightly here, as a result of previous legislation. The post-ban experience in Britain and Northern Ireland witnessed a rise in illegal hunting, poaching, and actually the need for dedicated police operations. So if you over-regulate or ban, it can lead to worse practices as well. And I think that's something that has to be factored into this. And more generally, I think you have to bring, in terms of any change in practice or whatever, you do have to bring people with you. I can recall earlier periods in this House when other practices were legislated for, and the campaigns that developed around it were far in excess of the specific issue. In other words, people felt that their entire way of life was going to be challenged. So the Health and Welfare Act or the Animal Health and Welfare Act of 2013 has very specific regulatory protections involved, with far greater penalties in terms of violation of the regulations in respect of hair coursing, and the regulated muzzled coursing, operated chiefly by the Irish Coursing Club, exists under a significant overlapping statutory framework. So the Wildlife Act of 1976-2018, the Animal Health and Welfare Act of 2013, the Open Seasons Order 2005, the Greyhound Industry Act of 1958, and ICC rules, directives and guidance notes. Coursing licences carry 44 separate conditions overseen by the National Parks and Wildlife Services. And those coursing meetings are supervised by the NPWS to ensure compliance with those 44 conditions associated with the Section 32 and 34 licences issued by the Minister of Housing, Local Government and Heritage. A panel of pre-coursing inspectors selected for hair expertise inspects every club in advance of a meeting and issues a certificate to courses only where standards are met. And there's a monitoring committee involving the Department of Agriculture, ICC and the NPWS to monitor developments in coursing, and the situation is kept under constant review to ensure that this is done in accordance with the law and the regulatory framework that governs.
Deputy Murphy.
Thanks. I mean, the Taoiseach says you have to bring people with you, but the people are miles ahead of the politicians on this one. So in today's poll, when you exclude undecided, 74% of people support a ban on hair coursing. In the poll a number of years ago, it was 77%, higher in rural areas than in urban areas. So the problem that the people often face is that they have to try to drag the politicians with them, because this place remains an outlier compared to society at large, where you're going to have potentially a majority support for hair coursing. Second thing, we've heard again and again and again about this industry being highly regulated. I mean, the whole essence of the thing is terrorising hares. It doesn't have animal welfare at its heart, despite what a Fine Gael TD tried to suggest in the debate on Thursday. The hares actually don't enjoy it. They actually don't. They're not running for the laugh. They're running because they're utterly terrified by dogs that are 10 times their size. Third thing, and I'll go again, Taoiseach, on the question of the report. It's very, very troubling that in the debate the government relied on a figure from a report that hasn't been produced, that cannot be analysed, that cannot be scrutinised. How can people vote when they're told that there's 70 million euros from Irish coursing, right, which doesn't make any sense whatsoever?
Taoiseach to respond. Deputy, time is up. Taoiseach has your point.
Well, I haven't seen the report, and I, to be frank with you, haven't been assessed. The provenance of the report is not something that I have knowledge of, but it's not surprising that people would have done studies on this and would have done analysis, but it's more than just economics in any event. And when I said about bringing people, I mean, I think there are people in rural Ireland who would have diametrically different approaches to you, or opinions to you, or approach, and there are. And that's what I meant in terms of engaging with society on these matters, because over time people have felt that their way of life, no matter how much it might be alienating to your perspectives or other people's perspectives, is under sustained attack and threat. Now, whether that's justified or not, that's the reality. And in many ways, these measures can actually create a counter reaction that's far disproportionate to the actual specific issues that have been raised there from time to time. So yes, that is a factor in our society, whether you like it or not. And that ultimately has manifestations that are much broader than the specific issue of hair coursing itself.
Thank you.
Buinagainis imachtaíon lé Dáil Éireann.
Mór imachtaíon lé ó éanad nuachta TG4.
Tar grias the bhéilte in Éireann. Lásann siad na báilte, agus tugann siad ardú manna donna pobl. Dón ahananta ná rún de cholaí. Sean Waníthe? No, ag teacht chun cin. Tá obair Jónach ina grí léir.
Tim gonna birching ní gonna job dáil se.
Is mise Hugh Carr, agus tá mé sa tóir ar chrí na féile.
Mór de Gael, se chuibh. Voilà. Clór ceola tacuibh ó Cypress Avenue an sa I grí leorcha ar chorcaí. Mise Louise Cantillon.
Agus is mise Tara Snoddy haar sé ihe splódra. Feici midna an hátseo long go béal le cuiigh na ceoltóirí agus na bannaí is fearr an Éireann.
Bílein go bula is srothail an gúigúla téa go bhíúil ar seinsáid TG4.
Experience amazing before you arrive. The Lexus NX plug-in hybrid.
Outsurance helps Shane make big car insurance savings on his Ford Focus.
Yeah, I saved €192 when I shopped around and I switched to Outsurance.
Oh, here we go.
I was having renewal issues with my last policy, but folks at Outsurance really sorted it out for me.
But Shane, we had to hike up your premiums.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Well, that's why I switched.
Can we not just start over?
No chance.
Real people, unreal savings. Outsurance. You always get something out.
Here in Ireland, we're doing well when it comes to our recycling and food waste bins. However, some paper, plastics and food are still ending up in our general waste bins. It can happen. So take a minute before you bin it and go to mywaste.ie for help and suggestions on how to make segregating your waste that bit easier. That's mywaste.ie. Brought to you by the Government of Ireland.
Dear heart, yo.
Panel's looking good this year, isn't it?
Oh, it is, yeah. It's all heating up now.
Power is saving up to €1,000 with 2 free solar panels, plus a free BER cert. Bord Gosh Energy. Know your power.
Ní cuireann cé a bhíon ar gcuine achas cuireann na sráidine, láinte lech leanúna, gríam dangan ar lábh a chéile, ucht a rótsa, washer an oscar an cundé lugáin. Níor man an táda eicad, thuchtú sús me bratachas an éig. Sketsamíní. Ní cuireann cé a bhíon ar gcuine ach is cuireann an lágréana sin. Críam me go deoir.
Craobh chomórtais hínsear pella agus umana CLG. Blush an rud nach féidir jarma di en a ver.
Honey, look how we made it this far. Hasn't the pace been a long bit? Honey, take a look at where we are.
Modern hotels. It starts here.
Conas fóheidil TG4 amsú ar an scéalainn ar an nap agus ar an sinseoir. Nuair a roiníonn tú cléir le fechan sé, fan go mbeadh na fógraí thart agus an cléir taisithe. Clicéil ar an scéalainn chun an bara rialaithe a eiceal. Clicéil ar dhealbhín na bhótheidil agus roiní burla na Gaeilge nar a bhíonn siad ar foiil. Ar an app is CC na cluasáin é dhealbhín na bhótheidil. Ar an leithrean gréasáin is box a buin le scríb an é dhealbhín na bhótheidil.
He could kick the big scores that were needed in the big moments.
He has to go down as one of the greatest managers of all time.
She brought so much to Kilkenny Camogie.
I was lovely. I was up to different.
She dochastol.
It was the honour of my life to represent Antrim.
He was more than a spark, kind of a generational talent.
I'm really to pussy now do a maximum.
Leith for Gael. Dá hagran extrahu inis.
Butcher Gary Maguire sitting she made a hole. Scope machen chin a fannas mon chin Alan McCrabb tasha on Green on number tag the fucking series on Kate score take Alan McCrabb for 0 Carrick a second. Seanish McCrabb is a box here tashi soft father will she Green tashi shin bulza for fair rolling Alan McCrabb tasha tasig Mayer. Sean chance inishige agus I bulza ord agus I cura Harrods rest on so on verts. Tom won the book in the sea Rick Green. Sean Chansonish, Egg McCrabb, agus, well, Tom on radar, a fine move, Kate Van Gay, the Alan McCrabb, the G-shot. Agus anish, though, Colin one at the reach. But Michael Carton trusting for Jim McCrabb, agus Tau, Accra, Nila Hockrock, Accra Sporch, Egg McCrabb has gone dinner behind Nakanish. McCrabb and his contort fin score, Bolicha Canmore, Neil to father, Bolicha Harrod Treston, Dermot, Jeticha Oran and me and Ireland's call, agus General Grandfather in Roger, Winner Janamagi. Captain Hibberdarn, Maher Gullah Ruher and Chuck. So she forced again past the shots of the origin with Paddy Murphy. As in a run, past Jack Tracy, Paddy Murphy, finish, toss pass to Mikey Cahill, the raw full score to a good shot. Tashi Futcha Cahill, come Jennifer away. Cahill her a thrust on. Tasha Egenish, Mr. Bertz and Chinnagiru talking to pass all in thrust with Ryan O'Dwyer. Shassilish Hain, Ryan O'Dwyer skip on her going to one and Shantig Ryan O'Dwyer and Dara score, and Dara score will take Ryan O'Dwyer. Circle Fox a Hutch near to Uta to Ege and pass Lava Trastin, Conal Keeney, got a Dolphin score, Bishop Blockle to Gamahanchin, and Chella Futcha, Sutcliffe the Dolphin score. Tasha Shin, got hauling, should I score in later? Agus fought Shelvin is fought Seamus Callan to non McGrath which is Callan so Tabline Callan the Brenner is brought Callan the Bola Hara Traston Brunton is Vian Chin Narira Oli and Rush Sean is Shelvin Sean is Kieran Bergen a Bola Ord Agus Bergen Hara Traston some Gaydur Ho scoring ye Kayla Timberdoran Kieran Bergen will track a Ruhernish and pass Sheernish could Non McGrath Brenner is Brook Non McGrath Hara Traston 3 scoring ye Kayla is fought Timberdoran Ryan shot Traston is because they have a Rue Kasha Dol Sheer Chancha Shigudi Michael Carton is Bull Michael Carton and Canchin so she bull Michael Lutz will she me Hara Traston on score Egg Michael Carton and Chen Capbegger Roshi Miriyesh Illingary Callan Bullet and Canchin or which is in Hara Traston Tashi Hara Traston on score Gír éilú sin is curja Stapleton wai gan ein strón sin agus an pass trasta sa lár. Crean go 10 millimeter. Fáitigh Danny Sutcliffe tá Danny faoi brú. Casan se hart tá seantigh Danny ar cholín inis is sin búlta go deasa Danny Sutcliffe ach nach an pass sin ó datsa iontach. Johannes Alan McCrabb agus eisian trasta sa lár. Fanata sin Ryan O'Dwyer. Ryan O'Dwyer is imar búlta go tá sí fáitigh Ryan O'Dwyer cos a gríimi euro gorman tá sin genta gan ein stró ag Ryan O'Dwyer agus go toban le clia treistáil ceir cholín chun cín ar íst. In mór go cíní fecha gan le tamil. Charles bhí cíní teachta seachantin ar líúir de bris ruch eile an. Níl, tugann sé machas. Agus Brendan Maher géar an slitar áúnis a chanis. A sí fáite ag cíní, an cíní céine. Pass faoine ascail an sinna níor duna bheith fanna tá dunas tibredarna dí fáitin sí Shane McGrath. Shane McGrath gardú a dúbal chun te can fada nós bhfuil an Green sa súla sin líon sé gúir presí sí fáitin mar tá sí fáte Callan dá contar seo. Callan tá róige tá John O'Dwyer Clay. Callan fós go ríis. Callan níos lá táha denta as a gól. Táha denta. Tá sí dit a gól ar deire ag Patrick Bonner Maher. Mia Cart ar Gary Maguire gin.
Bí aga cíide sé dochreide an cé ceann cabas agus frab sé an líra díorchós chóir an cléir se an immert ó Seamus Callan nuair bhúil sé isteach frech fraban sé díorch os a gáir double séhíntaach agus sin an raibh seansa ag a Peter Kelly better é stop a fresh in nadar ach bhí sé sin tiltach an áir sin.
Under the great of Chester Shag of Blacklia, agus she Mark Shooter, Tarrella, Chester Shag, Farmer Lodger, Shell of Fortune, she know McGrath, Chantiger Colin, agus McGrath, Sawstill, she go in, she can hard trust on again. John O'Dwyer, from my John O'Reilly, Noel McGrath, Ignore McGrath, nearer to Val, so she put Ignore McGrath, agus done Gaylor, Tibberdar, in the Hunkeen, and John. Goichan Corhamu, egg. Blacklia's na fórne fós go hurl an pokamach sin a Gary Maguire sin tain chéad botún tá genta go jetta ráineo an blockal genta gin ar Seamus Callan ag Michael Carton san sele fáte ráisi Blacklia ríis is cíno Callan gar macha Callan faoi brú an tamar rásad lethach an sin agus faoi brú ríis ach an sele fáte ráis i Tibberdar Noel McGrath begad an cantan a bhla go scipaí white sin bunch a háling in Noel McGrath 3 scoring McGrath agus an Camas fire. Ceir blian ó hinnis, Greta ar búisiad Hannes Jessan Joy John O'Dwyer a casa hart ar mar a Jersey their left fin agus é sin buite go háling aige agus don géadúr Forestbar go féire. Nish. Seo Jason Ford sit siúiste him méile chóil ní dóla go tucann scóra tá sí fáte Callan beidir go níos fearna cóil Callan á bhil a raspar a Callan zero hard trastan bhí cólar inta aige. Tá cíní ceart mar sin. Tá Paul Ryan take amach a cheapan nach fada bhain Paul Ryan le teachta seach mar under dí ceart. A chanis seo puc sír antáhachtach ag Joey Boland, agus tá sí tá chord, bhil sí tá Crean, tá sí thar an spotad up. Dorcan bhil sé durbud, chun sean pass trasca dí Sutcliffe. Sutcliffe a go a rúthir, tá duine búteige, Sutcliffe is a thóir puc sír, tá sé dul a thóir a cholín inis, ní bhór sean puc sír, thóir sean cholín. Nis. Seamus Callanan agus Jesh ige, rá cholín ágáil idir na fórne ríist. Brenna ar a glóg, níl fóca ach sé a chearan óméid na mar sin. Héna cúideag, seachteag, sin 8 le seachteag, Forestbar go cholín amháin, Michael Ryan is tuair barach, tá sí búlte de Callan, Brennan sí sin go má, an áitseo margus tá sí go má, tá Forestbar go féidir ríisteacha. Páric Maher scapúil páric gur cholín de bhúla a héin. Ba cheacha go a Callan an ceanse hard trastan gan ein stró, Afric agan sin ar a chumán, seo Afric ar box sír, agus an is ba Afric agan ar na muir, agus é gardú an ratháin. Agus Jessica. Lachlí a chur sláán ríis, tá sé sin déntaige, tá sé chur a trastan aige, mar sin héin. Tá sí ard, agus tá sí Crean, agus an is tá Tibberdar an sláán. Well, mar ecinn sibh, 3 nóid go amcúteamh gortaithe. 3 cholín go Arsbar, ag Tibberdar is lóra, McCrabb leis a buc. Tá sí búlte ard ag McCrabb, agus tá sí búlte thar a trastan ag McCrabb, agus an is tá Tibberdar an sláán. Cé off his shelf, in Rory Gairy, tá sí fáte na Tibberdar ríis, agus a caha Blacklia a cumrachan, a puc sí rúla, fátenis, agus tá sí fáte ag Ronan Maher a bóla, Ronan Maher ard, agus Ronan Maher thar a trastan, agus beidir go Ronan Maher, troi stádas right héna, chlán óga Tibberdar, glantamach a canar mahenni, tá an trína mat catte, tá nadóg séite, stádas rína héin sáhalte ag Tibberdar. Scored ar nach Tibberdar hen an ídeag, Blacklia náid an ídeag.
An taidir, scolara, nó léirethir telefíse hu. Bhfuil spéis agad is dar craoltarach na Éireann. Chláraí le cartlan TG4 don seirbhís nua taide a ceilirú trá bliain de chraoltarach Gaeilge. Tá seirbhís nua digatach, sír an aisce agus bhí lán seol. Buin tríalas ag www.cartlan.tg4.ie.
Chuir Gail, se chuibh. Chlór ceola tacuibh ó Cypress Avenue an sa I grílóracha ar churcií. Smis Louise Cantalan.
Agus is mission Tara Fós nodí haar sé ihe splódra. Feici muid na an hátseo long go béal le cuiinte na ceoltóirí agus na bannaí is fear an Éireann.
Bhí lein go bhfuile is srotha an gúigiúla déag go bhíúil ar seinsóid TG4.
Tá mealtacht ag an bharige, cluisim a gléach, ar nós glór, córá idir corp agus téidir. Ach tá córá sin ag afrú. Mar sin, bharrtaigh mé éisteacht le mo chóch nábhaithe agus an méid atá an airige chríanna ag cogarnach leosan.
Sáile, is srothanis.
He could kick the big scores that were needed in the big moments.
He has to go down as one of the greatest managers of all time.
She brought so much to Kilkenny Camogie.
I was very big. I was up in different.
She dúchas tú.
It was the honour of my life to represent Antrim.
He was more than a spark, kind of a generational talent.
In real Alwynta, Pussy ná dúra maximum.
Léifre Gael, dá hagran ag strathú inis.
An taidir, scolara, nó léirethir telefíseú. Bhfuil spéis agad is dar craoltarach na Éireann. Chláraí le cartlan TG4 don seirbhís nua taide a ceilirú trá bliain de chraoltarach Gaeilge. Tá seirbhís nua digatach, sír an asce agus bhí lán seáil. Buint rialas ag www.cartlan.tg4.ie.
Go manaí deachib, má chailtib chlárabenne se gan na seachtaine, caigi súil ar haintsóide TG4 le fáil éon áit éon uair, agus bémudirás le pádaí agus PQ ar Tour de France beoinseo ar TG4 tróna na máireach. Ach anis bhain le go teo sa gan áras íomha a chaird a Gael.
Dever mahasa agus fáiltear go Nuacht agus sport an lein na cínlínta. Fisrúchan dúnmhairthe bunathe i gceist na Gcordaí atá ag fisrú bós mná i Gíleorna. Tá an sos cogaigh thart agus bualamíd an Éireann go téan a nochta deir Donald Trump. Tig inar chahan scríóir Martin O'Kine chudá óige ar díal a Ganamara. Tá fisrúchan dúnmhairthe bunathe i gceist na Gcordaí atá ag fisrú bós mná i Gíleorna inné. Americánach a bad Jamie Carney a bhíonn sna dahadaí ach bhí si ag mreachtainte Gíleorna le tamil de bhlianta anuas.
Bhí Kilorna fés gamlan roininmh agus tíine i ggéirí cíalaanamh as a méid a titithe amach an sa, ban óg máthir marthe ina tig féin. Hartharam loin in é timpla le huirtrééis a héan a tháinas ar chorp Jamie Carney, ban dahad tí bliain díis, ina tig cónathe ina Stáit Homelands ar bmhóthar bhochras. Teigtar gur ball do chlán na tháinigirthe, chuirg fisar na seirbhísí éigeandála agus fógraíochaí a bheith marmh ar an láthair. Teigtar go bas nuamhrach meireachá í Jamie ó Ghóchais agus bhí si na chónaí a Gíleorna le 5 mbliana mar sin. Bheahanna bhór iartha go háitiúil agus bhí si gafail i roinnt imeachtaí i measc an pobal. Thoscrúdú iarmháis a chur iartha in ospidéal na hallscoile Ciarí agus túraigh go thuiris an teoir den is rócháin a deir na Gcordaí. Tá seomar na dangmhas lonathe is stáisiún na Gcordaí i Gíleorna agus teigtar go bhfuil buail de Bureau Technúil an Gcorda Síochána asbalá clia i takeú leis a bhís rúcháin.
Aon duine a bhéadach ólas ar bith acu nó 6 dashcam footage acu tagháil a dhéanamh leis na Gardaí mar beag ról lárnach ag an ólas seo chun an cá seo a réiteach.
Tá si dainethe ag na Gcordaí gur fisrúcháin dúnmhairthe a tháinig geistenis agus go bhfuil ad lorug fearr go raibh aithne ag an té a maríoch air a cheistú maidir leis nachtere. Iráis is a chur na Gcordaí ar fáil go nóachtainmh, dúireach náfuil éine aimsethe nó féiciáda chu go fóil maidir leis an nachtere. Marion O'Flaherty, Nuacht TG4 i Gíleorna.
Agus tá Marion Lynn inisbeo ó Gíleorna scéal brónach amach samach a bhairionn catá na Gcordaí ag rá ag an drásá tronthóna.
Bhfuil hiúin tá na sonraí is déanaí a gcuin inis agus mar bhí luútan san sa túris, Tá si dainethe ag na Gcordaí inis gur fisrúcháin dúnmhairthe ath a gceist agus go bhfuil cuasa áirithe á leanúntacha. Tá si de lorug fearr go raibh aithne ag Jamie Carney air agus heastíon bhathan fearr sin a chur fé aglah. Anis teigtar go raibh an fearsa ina chonaí in Éireann le tamil. Agus de réir na Gcordaí ní féidir lo mórrán a rá mar jaler, ní féidir a íse lua an tír as a dánig sé lua nó éonrad eile mar sin nó ainm an fearr a lua. Anis háiste go luragan fearsa go háirithe ag na Calafort agus na Airfort agus tá fis curtha ar na Pólíní ó thuig go PSNI maidir leis an fearsa agus é á lurag éis na Górdaí ach scéal fíor fragóideach an sa i go leorna ach is cosúil go bhfuil tuile le teacht maidir le seo.
Pácamíd an sanna bharíonn gur míle maithagad as an scéal is déanaí tronthúna. Tá ordú géar tacaithe ar phráiseala agus é ráise ag Donald Trump go bhfuil an sos cogaigh idir an Iarán agus Merica thart. Ag leabharte cruinniú mollig NATO sa tuiscinnmh dúirt an tuachtarán Trump go bhíoach locht idirbheartaíochta leanúntar ag caint lena chéile ach go gap sé féin gur cuireamú ama a bheith ann. Bhagad an tuachtarán Trump go dárlóch díon únsathe eile ar an Iarán a nacht.
Fórsaí na Hiráine agus Merica in áirice chéile ríist agus an comhainn tú síochána caite in air.
I think it's over. I don't want to deal with them anymore, they're scum.
Ag leabhart ag cruinniú mollaí NATO sa Tuircinne, dúirt an tuachtarán Trump nach dastaíonn mhaith éon phlé a bheith heige leis an Iarán fasta agus nach fiú tadaíad muintir na Hiráine ná locht ceannasaíochta na tíre sin.
Séir tá muid ag cáil ná Trump é féin. I gur chintiú go méid sé féin go persanta is stiche lá an néanaí le líon chruinne seo an ancara agus gur airsan a bheits ardin da tarníthe. Rinne sé ionsaithe ar 8 target tíhuiiste an Iarán mar agra ar ionsaí rinne an Iarán rícinn go tanceirí an ghuilas Hormuz agus feicimú le sin an Iarán go na chumasach fós dumáistíanna sa meannar agus gúil teanachracha agus gúil smachtacha ar chuilas Hormuz. Ach ní dóilm gúlinn sin ach skirmisveg chuineos rudaí a fecha sa meannar.
Cé eile a bhecha brebontáiste as an asaontas is dearnaí idir an Iarán agus Merica.
Stoilm go mbeidh na Rúsí sásta go má leis méide tá feiceíach le cheadmhar a fichiid nó mar sin sé sin an tasaontas peibli atá le feiceáil idir Merica agus báilstá teile go chuid in NATO. Agus ag an nám chéanna gur beg seans go bhí Zelensky an chair chosanta nó na Dúracán Patriot i táhaid go práineach agus gcuí sé sin go scofanta. Agus ná déanam muistear an freisin, ggólann méid alla atá stáitiantí Merica as fortáil ó heas an coga seo, goite méid go mór ó heas an coga.
Ordú chuig fan géad atá tacaí ar phráis ábhailne an tordú is mú ó dhearbhí beltainna. $7 in an bharla tá dheara ar na margaí idirnáisiúnta níos. Tá imníá léirú go bhhéiteach ordathe eile bhar na bocáin agus an bualáin go bhhéití cuilas Hormuz a gúna ríist. Éireann Nuacht Nuacht TG4.
Vótáil mór a Parliament na Eorpa is Strasbourganmh I bhábhar cosca chuir ar aspórtálacha alúmana chun na Rúise. Vót a simblacha bhí ann ná beidh éon tonchurige ar folasaí an Choimisiún Eorpaig. Vótáil feisirí ina Gael agus hin féin I Parliament na Eorpa I bhábhar an rún ach bharrtaigh feisirí íana fáil stéanna ón vótáil ar an mán go bhfuil fisrúchánar bun ag rialtas na héireann fé láthir ar aspórtálacha ó Scaglan áhanis alúmana a gúnta limní ná fuil cura ag rí go fóil. Well innis tar go agraí polítíochta donacha ó marach ó fimar cholamar an san a ganacha vóta simblacha ach fós féin cuidir sé seo brú ar an rialtas is tócha.
Vóta simballach sé Jones féidir nach féidir le Parliament na Eorpa in Chine dhéana fes smacht vannaí caithfidh tíorthan ó ballstáit ile an Choimisiún Eorpaig vótáil daon rá chun smacht vannaí chur ar ábhar nó ar stát ar letheach teachtareacht láidir bhí an sá mar sin héin dearcha na bheisirí ar fad a lehanna lúmana léide agus saléid a lúmana hatséis bheith saoir ó smacht vannaí go díise agus cuidir sé seo brú ar a Choimisiún Eorpach agus ar rialtas na héireann go dain doling leic leis an gceiste achrannach san ceist ahanis a lúmana. Anna chuid go dain a brathir visrúchána haar bun ag an rain fiúntais fé láthir. Má hagann sé chun solis agus ar nó an visrúchansa le corrigdích leistigh do chopla seachtain a déir an tríiseach. Má hagann sé chun solis gúil alúmana ón Scaglan a dulchan na Róise agus áúsáid in armlón de chuid na Róise, well ní bhíh an tarna ráhan sa ag an guimiisiún ach gní a bhú agus begar rialtas na héireann taú le pécinine a dhéant for hasise. Ábhrín casta áfacha gas rialtas na héireann han tófas fostaíochta an tófas post a brath Scaglan a hanis alúmana agus han rialtas tééis an áit a chosaint hena agus cúnspóidí áidthe buint leis. Ní bhaint san nach tacht fuór a buint leis na hesportálacha alúmana ónmhonarcha de héleagar na hórpa i gutine agus bín an fríomhchúisgur bhirrtaigh fisherí íana fáil mar hampla stéanna ón bhótáil in Barry Andrews a tuitlefis nar tugach saléireach nar tugach dóhain ahantais sarúna chuireach febhráid na Parlamente don tacht áirithe son agus go bhíoh díomháil mhór a dhéanamh de héleagar na hórpa dá gcuid fí smachtbhannaí ar an alúmana de sé leis nar tugach lehantas don na híireachtaí haar bun ag an rialtas doling lec leis an gist. Finna gaiileach sin féin áfacha bhótáil i bhábhar coscachar ar esportálacha alúmana chun na Róise a déid cinnte go gá stoppachar leis an esportáil chun na Róise ina omláine ach a gná ceanna go gábh anna chóirmach gnin fin prist ina hanis alúmana a chosint.
Agus bhóta le caithh chomaithe nacht ar chóirsáil goríocha sa Dáil a ghancha consaráid sé sin an dólaat.
Well bhótálaigh an cóirialtas an aigen rúin sa rún de chuid phobal seachas brabú san éiti chlé taú leis Fine Gael agus fianna fáil na chuine ach sin féin le bhótáil ina chuine chomá agus léadú eile se ar cheistan áirthe go míon dailt i measc páirte an rasúra páirte na héite clé agus go háirthe ar cheisna híimiisce an chóirsáil georíocha mar chiimiid an sa an teigh madra ró marachnic mar cúpla mí chuine agus chutha i lehinn féin ag páirte na héite clé na daon le sosialta pobal seachas brabú agus páirtí lochta nach míonn siad a clí le seaamh na héite clé ar cheistena áirithe mar se go bhfuil si níos cimiadaí agus iad dírig dul bhaimar bhótaí na tuthe. An is ar a gás áirithe sa ddíorch sin féin go bhfuil rialacha a bhain go dain ar a gúrsáil géiríocha sa tíd áirithe se. Agus i ddíorcha eile nílach tíhíir chafiorrá is san sórpach éiding an Spáinach san Fortangéil nachhfuil cosc ar an gúrsáil géiríocha únta go fóil. Ach i ddíorcha eile fiútuis cartéidir mar hampla start eile a bhfuil cosc sa haváim gur léid sna costan san gur leanan cleachtas a raig fé halamh agus go mí lethach sinna ddíorch sin féin agus an rialtas don dóidim chéanna Micheál Martin an tríseachtúir lefisanmh gur gásna cásna san gur gá achfaní breisethúirt dus na pólíní chun pólínachta dhéanamh ar an ábhar ach gan dát bhí sé se achrannach léirigh sé an dailt go háidthe measc fáirthe na héite clé agus ábhar cúnspóide leis go bhfuil teachtaí dal an rialtas á bhunú sathir thuras gáile duach cúpla blianahain inar léidir gur gnóigh an chóirsáil 60 milliún euro don géileagar der Paul Murphy áfach nach chuil an ina seán a léiríonn an figúr san.
Fácamíd an san a runnacha gur míle maithagad as san. Tá a líad seachtar marithe in éar únsathe a dhéanann rúis ar an Uachráin a réid. Tagan na húnsathe is déanaíonn sna sála ar an blé a bhí ar siúl féin Uachráin ag cruinniú mollig hir in NATO an Ankara a nómh. Le líon an chruinnithe sin thug uachtarán Mheiriceá Donald Trump léfis go dúireach na Stát Aontaithe na carta den Uachráin dúracháin chosanta éid Patriot a dhéanamh iad féin.
Mariú seachtar ar a laid an ionsaithe na Rúise ar an Uachráin a réir. Thúlachas pléis go mór i gcíomh go gairid in Íomeán ihe. Mariú duine bháin a gcíomh agus gortaíú Bartella, dar leis an méire Vitaly Klitschko a dúirt freisin go chuirú stórastrí henne hééis ionsaí dúracháin. In áiteach eile san Uachráin, Mariú máthar agus inín i régiún Háas Viculov nuair a bhainne fórsaí na Rúise éaronsaithe ar an gceantar dar le thurlairí míleta. Mariú burt i régiún Herthua Harkív agus Bartella i régiún Kherson. Mariú breis is chuige duine an bhí seo san Uachráin in ionsaithe dúracháin Wallistíocha agus Dróin. Le seachtainna nuas tá riont ionsaithe móra dinta ag an Rúis ar phríomhchathair na Uachráine. Tá ionsaithe dinta ag an Uachráin ar an Rúis freisin. Ionsaithe deir Kyiv gur díaltas corraméad ar na honsaithe ihe ar a garracha héin. Bhí an tuachtarán Vladimir Zelensky a láthair ag cruinniú mollaí thíortha eagraíocht chunra an Atlantic Chuaigh, NATO, in Ankara inniu, leis an ngéirchéim san Uachráin i phlé. I leabhartchó ag an cruinniú mollaí, déimpí an tuachtarán Zelensky ar a chóghúlaithe, níos mú armlóin a chur ar fáil go chórais choisianta air Patriot de chuid Stát Aontaithe Mheiriceá, na córais atá an dúracháin Wallistíocha na Rúise a stoppa. Le linn a chruinnithe thugann tuachtar an Trump le fios go dúireach na Stát Aontaithe an ceart chun Ucrain dúireach an chosanta Air Patriot a dhéanana iad hain.
About the fact that we'll give them the right to make patriots. We'll show them how to do it. It's very complex, actually, but it's you'll figure out the complexity quickly.
Ní léir go méid stad ná stéanda leis na honsaige a bhíne se bhfuil fógraí ag uachtar an Veracá Donald Trump. Dúirt ceannas é orsa drón na Húcráine gur búla fiche héan long rúiseach sa bhuir ghobh agus a mór azamh le 72 uair chuig an nuas. Mar in Éireann, Nuacht, TG4.
Agus sinna bhfuil sa chiad chud don glórach rún fós trónthóna, tuig inar chahan scríóid mór le rá, Martino Cain, chud dá óige ar díal ar an spidéal i Ganamara. Agus beag scialta sport an lé ag Eileen.
Míle maith go hiún. Lá scíthe a ann inmh ag Carnan Down, sa goid for tús leis na bátaí ceathrú canis a máireach. Agus crinú generálta uair gnách ar bon na cumann pelle na Éireann an FAI sa Stad a Bhíomha imlá clia trothan amasa. Agus iad le bhóta a chahabh ar rún fé cluichí sacais phoblach na Éireann a gcuinmh Israel is sra na náisiún. An scéalsan agus teile in dhéag na bhógraí fanna gilin.
An taidir, scolara, nó léirethir telefíseú. Bhfuil spéis agad is dar craoltarach na Éireann. Chláraí le cartlan TG4 don seirbhís nua taide a ceilirú 3 bliain de chraoltarach Gaeilge. Tá seirbhís nua digatach, sír an aisce agus bhí lán seáil. Buin tríalas ag www.cartlan.tg4.ie.
And how was the drive?
Grand.
Well, Granny. First we had to go and get the party balloons.
Party balloons, love.
Yeah, balloons. So we went in Daddy's car and we went into a big hole of water.
It was a pothole.
Then the man from Geneva came to the rescue.
Aviva. The man from Aviva.
For car insurance with breakdown rescue, it takes Aviva.
The first thing you need is people that believe in you when you don't even believe in yourself. Like Mickey and Ned.
Make the guy next to you look great.
It gets you bursting out of the dressing room. That was the power of someone's words. Playing it forward isn't just about lifting cups, it's about lifting players.
Okay, boys, play for each other. Make the guy next to you look great.
Come on, let's go play some football.
Behind every county are those who lift us all. AIB, for the life you're after.
Bag the sweetest summer spread for less with Lidl Plus. Mix and match across a range of pastries, danishes and more. 3 for only €3. Pick up freshly baked butter croissants, a tasty 3 for just $1.80. Or keep things sweet, mix and match donuts, 3 for $2.09. Lidl, more to value. Don't forget to collect Lidl points on every shop with Lidl Plus.
Welcome to Clayton Hotels, where every second is yours to enjoy however you like. And every experience is elevated with a little help from us. Clayton Hotels, where it's personal.
Fáilteóibh Hnáis, inis bronnach damáistí suntasacha inmh grúpa daoine a tháinig sláán ó únsaí dhéon díolseoirí ar hiictáirne a gúnta an dún in sna 1990. Is a gcuinmh na bólíní agus airm na bratainine a tógach an cás sí bhéalta. Bhuaigh an tochtar a thógan cás go raibh cléan fortíocht idir na fórsaí slándála agus buin den UVF a bhí a gobar sa cheantar. Is ag bailú le chéile ar an níthe a bhíidir chun cluthe dartainna a dhimmert ar bhaile carnacht nuair a tharla an túnsaí. Tá tuig le dhína muintre an scríór a Martin O'Kine an Maraga tuig a chahan cainach chuda óige ínte an gunocán glas an spidéal a Ganamara. Der efigach planála tangan an cheantar go bhfuil deisiúntachan éireacht agus sevras le tíochta an cheantar a chéimhnú dá ganóch agrioch stáit an tuig agus an áta arbert de scríóirí agus dailseoirí sa cheantar.
Rugú an scríbhnúir aitheanta Martin O'Kine an gruchan glas an spidéal in nídig sa sé. Tá teach le dtíine muintere leis an gaiinech an mála cinenne an Maraga agus a goil cant líne amárach. Tugann teach ag dean na dríchatí agus cha O'Kine rins ama cuairt sa teach gá stór.
Bheadh Martin an nuas an go minic ar saoire agach sé timpplatíana ag agach uirtas an bliain agus bhíoh sé héanagus a bheanna dasach agus an sin caiú bheanna níideag seaca cúig mar daoine rudaí agus sé héana nuas go réalta go dtí gur caiú an níideag seachta.
Tá seanteach an rugú agus tógiú an cainech ag láthir eile an mála fear an cinenne is sellh antíhas í chain le rins blianta.
Díine an tí sacadúla rá gur fear a bheith an scíneoirí ach feicharumsa go mear sin a bheithhas ag seanteach mar bhí an smaoine céan ag an héin agus buoine céim a dóg an legan amach a bhí agan go híomh an teintí an náiteach lána dasach agus na foraí a lánú agus an sin beidir na dhéisisin na dúcha muoinú agus an tairige dain le inad scíneoirí thugáil an.
Déir efigich planála teanga go seaige gur deis iontacha áis na litreachta sa gantar Alberts dá ganach agrioch stát an teach atá ar an Maraga chun chud le sevras agus éireacht an chaine agus scríbhnóirí eile.
Tá deis an fi láthir go agrioch stát so hí an náte cheannacht agus bhfuil ag an speisialta dhéanaas i dtíobh na scríbhneirta. Tá coolar láidir scríbhneart ar fud Chonamara agus i ríis so hí níl na háisin an chun freistalú. Seachas beidir techa fíorsaí hir Rosmuc agus bheith sé ionintach rud mar se bheith go seaige chun freistal ar na scríbhneoirí ar fád tá timppla na háite agus in na TG4 tá déanamh sárobar.
325 milliún euro atá á lorg ag an gantalí Martin O'Connor ar an teach a bheits ar cant a lína ar thaobh D&G ag meán lé amárach. Éireann am bhfuilón, Nuacht, TG4.
Tá bannagar úmpar Éireann tar éis chud a láthir Hammerson ar chrádaí chonneil a chnach, mar chud an bharbert atá le déanamh ar Metrolink is an láthair seo trá a bhíoh Pictureland Carlton. Deir an cólacht gur céim huantas a ché seo I dteoas go gríochnófar an tunscnamh. Dúirt an taracátachas fablaí Jack Chambers go bhfuil sé agsúil go dá snóig an obair thógála ar Metrolink Flá Clia laistigh de Ghábhlíon. Tá aistíochtaí gáis capathe tasa na héireann titithe don gaharú bliain as a chéile hit sé 2.2 fan géad de réis figúrí nó ó gníomhaireacht am chaomhnú cóhíl. Mar sin héin deir an gníomhaireacht go bhfuil an ráta ag a bhfuil an laidú in aistíochtaí ag tarlú I bhfad ar an rómhail chun gnáidróig leis an díos na sprucanna atá lecha amachta de fiche tucha a bhainteach. Tá sé námanistas na scialta spórt tá siad go léir ag Éireann.
Maigad a hiún. Cuasaí sacir ar dús tronhóna agus tá cruniú generálta uair ghnách ar bun ag cumann pelle na héireann an FAI sa Stada Viva im le clia tráth namasa agus iad le bhóta a chahabh ar rún fe cluichí sacir phoblach na héireann a gcuinmh Israel is trana náisiún. Fé mar I heasan cuasaí fe láthir tá fuireann Héimír Hal Grímson le haig a thuirtear Israel san Óngáir ar an 7 láfithe de bhean fóir don gluthe aspaile agus hon cluthe baile le imirt ar an garú lá de dhearr fóir sa Terbia. Ní se a gceist sa rún an nacht go nen bhí boicot ar na cluichí. Measan an FAI go bhíad bhí os ciún 10 milliún euro a chailiúnt dá depachortha na cluichí a dhimirt. Cuasaí chumanú Glasgow-Inis agus há íomháile sa tóid bhainisteoir Caidenó agus é dainithe tráthnóna go bhfuil Declan Kelly agus Mickey Hart Burt tris IDS mar chomhainisteoirí squad síonseach an chuntaithe san. Cuidann sé seo deire le téimhse rá bhliain a bhí ag Hart le íomháile iníag do teachtasteach le carú le banistíocht Declan Kelly a mílúnasa fiche ceithir. Bhí Kelly a chairigh le fuireann fiche bliain díos íomháile, tedal ile Éireann a bhuachtain te fiche héin, leis héin mar bhainisteoir de fiche ceithir, sa dánig Hart bord an dá héasúr darnach. Deir bord chuntaithe íomháile nar a bharrta Kelly meacht gur chin Mickey Hart álaigh a dhéanamh. Cuasaí rothaíochta inis agus fear na hísealtíre Olaf Coy a thug leis stad an Léinmh don Tour de France stad Ivid Cuig agus roimh úntach déantaige go dtí an Cheachlíne. Thug tros an Léinmh na rothaithe chus glóite ó Lan Mézán go pá ag bun chnach na bídéine. Tharla tanúis go díreach rimis dearad an rása rud i liadig an príomhgrúpa rothaithe bhain Coy buntáiste omláin as san ba hapúla ag teachta bhaile. Cuasaí ledóige deire tráthnóna agus imiríoch bátaí ceathrú canis a Wimbledon inmh I go mórtas na man beag an ceathair a thá mehéideáid go díos na bátaí lechanis I gimmers na bátaí lechanis sin den giad uair. Fuair Linda na scóbhan na Seice an lábhan nuachtar Lys Martin na Belge sé 65. Agus, gaidig le Marta Kostiuk na Ucraine an ceann na sfeargáilt Jasmine Paulini na Dáile sé a dó. Agus sinna bhfuil sa bhír sport inmh a hiún.
Sanna Eileen fiach míidir an bríomhscéal a ríist ag deire an chláir tá fisrúcháin dúnmhairthe bunathe gas na Górdaí atá ag fisrú bós mná I Gíleorna. Americánach a bheith Jamie Carney a bhíonn sna dahadaí ach bhí si ag mreachtant I Gíleorna le tamil de bhlianta. Well, sinna bhfuil a gcuinnig an buinte seo tráthnóna gur maithagibh se as a bheith an ardanta slán go fóil.
He could kick the big scores that were needed in the big moments.
He has to go down as one of the greatest managers of all time.
She brought so much to Kilkenny Camogie.
I was lovely. I was up and different.
She dóchastóir, and she misneachtóir.
It was the honour of my life to represent Antrim.
He was more than a spark, kind of a generational talent.
I'm really alienta. Pussy na dúra maximum.
Luchra Gael, dá hagram ag strathú inis.
Alright, okay. We'll do right the shot.
How will I yad?
Air house.
Oh no.
Keanu on, Ella.
I'm will to rake the Llewellyn ish. Yeah, Tommy Ray. Steve, I'm will. Steve. Steve. What? Steve. Me, a me. Anish.
Aloha agus a cheapan tú go bhfuil tú fáil strók. Becheartad léach a nai. Oral-B knows that no matter what kind of teeth you have, they deserve a perfect clean that's also perfectly gentle. Our dentist-inspired round brush head gently adapts to your teeth. It cleans where your manual toothbrush doesn't reach and massages your gums. The pressure sensor ensures you don't apply too much pressure for up to 100% cleaner teeth and proven gum protection. Oral-B, the #1 brand used by dentists worldwide. Your perfect clean starts with Oral-B.
Michael's not feeling the best a man can get right now, and it's not being one-on-one with the keeper, it's his body. Trimmed with his regular grooming kit and now very irritated. Next time, Mike, use new Gillette Labs Body, our safest body trimmer technology with a skin-first blade to help protect against nicks and cuts. And he's back in the game! Well, they all count. Gillette Labs Safest Body Shave, our best your body can get.
Hey sis, I got your
I got your package. I just wanted to say thank you so much. But don't be spending your pocket money on me, alright? Just leave me a message. Miss you.
There's a glass and a half in everyone.
Tá mealtacht ag an bharige, cluisiom a gléach, nos glóa, córá idir corp agus téide, ach tá córá sin ag afrú. Mar sin, bharrtaigh mé éisteacht le mo chóg námhaithe agus